Hi, Dr. Rob.
Hey, Madam Tammy, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm not a madam, just so you know. So
Oh, well, not yes,
I know. I
Madame.
heard that. I know. There you go. Okay. And I never was. So, okay, what is the relapse? Oh, this is a good question. What is the relapse rate for physical sex acts? I'm sorry, for physical sex acts. I know porn counts, but I wonder if there's a difference in relapse rate between watching porn and doing an actual physical act with another person. So, I'm going to start because I love statistics. I actually have a degree in statistics. And so this is one of those things where anybody who starts spouting statistics for you, like, oh, it's 8%, and I'm making that up. Like this is addiction. We lie to ourselves and everyone else. So there could be parameters, about this, for those that are really, getting the help that they need. There's a pathway. If you're doing this on your own, but you're, using all the tools, 90 meetings in 90 days, working with a qualified professional, doing our drop-ins and our work groups, all of those things, you will start to see some real change. But I've been in recovery for a long time. And you know what? People who stop doing those things, guess what? They relapse. There's no, when I was in treatment, the therapist actually quoted a stat and looked around the room and said, this, and it didn't matter because at the end of the day, I'm an individual. If I'm doing what I need to do, we all could have stayed in recovery if we did what we were supposed to do, but I know for sure that people didn't. So I chose to, and it's worked out really well for me. So as much as I love math and statistics and all of that kind of stuff, it really is for the person who is absolutely doing the work that they need to do. They will, they will get recovery. They will be on a different trajectory. You will see changes for them. So, but I mean, otherwise stats are, when treatment centers do this, they're calling alumni. A, they have to reach them. B, they have to ask a question. Are you still sober? What's an addict going to say? Some of them will be truthful, but a lot of them will go, yes, I'm doing great, and they may or may not be, so it really, I appreciate the question, but like it's the wrong focus. It's not about stats. It's like, what am I doing today for my recovery? That's what really matters. I'm 100% sure I will say, in my recovery today, because I'm doing what I need to do. So, Dr. Rob,
Well, I'm stuck with you. Got a degree in statistics. I'm on way back
I used
there.
to teach statistics. I used to teach math at the college level because I actually really do like stats and math. So
Well, I'm
sorry.
glad you're around because I forgot how to add, or maybe I can add, but division, forget it. Um, I think I'm with Tammy. First of all, it depends on the individual. This
Yes.
isn't a everybody's the same, and we can give a percentage how many people like white bread.
Yeah.
Um, this is really, as Tammy said, the amount of energy the person puts in it, how committed they are, and it's different for every person. I do know people who've never had a slip, never, ever, ever. And I know people who are constantly struggling and dealing with, and honestly, I would disagree with Tammy in the sense that it's not just about the work. I mean, some people are more vulnerable. They have
Yes.
more psychological issues, more trauma, and it's more of a struggle for them. They have other things contributing to it. Some people can get it pretty quickly and they're good. So I don't think, but the question was about porn also. And
And
honestly, I don't,
physical acting out, differentiating between the two. Do you see a differentiation?
yeah, I make this up because there's no statistics, but I actually think it's probably easier for someone who has a porn problem because it's easier to make a decision not to leave your house, not to go meet up with someone. You have to make time, you have to make an appointment, maybe you have to pay them. There's a whole bunch of
It's
things you have to
easier to
do.
have a slip, is it what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. It's easier to have
Yeah.
a slip on porn
Okay.
because all you need to do is
Yeah.
thank you for that,
Yeah.
is look over and turn on your computer. I mean, I could be doing that at the same time I'm talking about this. I'm not, but I could be two screens and all that.
Hmm.
So, I do think it's in some ways more difficult, but but it's really up to the individual. And so I think there's another. Let me ask you this, Tammy. Is the next question related
Yes, and
to this
I saw that, and I think
Okay,
it is. So
good.
so let's go with that. Since the success rate for sex addicts, and this is not just sex addicts, I mean, this is addiction regardless of what form it takes. So if you look at any statistics, it would look not great, on a percentage basis, but on an individual basis, what is that person doing? But your question is, since the success rate for sex addicts is so low, why is reconciliation even suggested for betrayed spouses couples?
Well, who said that they were low? Number one, we don't actually know. I will say, and I consistently say that we don't always just get it and move on.
Hmm.
And even people who work diligently may struggle for a while. It took me a couple of years, honestly, but I'm very troubled guy. And also I didn't have a relationship to go home to. For me, it was more of a struggle. I didn't have the consequences. I'm going to lose this, or I'm going to not have my job. Or for me, it was a decision not to live that way anymore. But it really depends on. And the other word I have is success. How do you find success? If you just find success as never doing it again, I still don't know, but I still think about it. I still want to do it. I still have to call somebody and say, gee, I'm thinking about this today. And this is, 30 years later, I have a problem. One of the ways that I think about addiction, and I think that we will get there, is a mental health issue. So, like
Hmm.
depression, and I think depression is a great example. You're in remission for a period of time, but then under stress, someone dies, something's difficult, and you've maybe gotten out of touch with your program, or you haven't called someone for a while, or haven't maintained that connection. You're more likely to do it or end up there. But to me, success may be very different than to you. This is what success means to me. I'm honest. I tell the truth. I have integrity. I'm committed to my path. I have stopped for many years counting days, although I have years and years, but I don't say that 3 years is success and 3 months isn't. I would say to you, spouses, what success is if I came to you and said, I'm really struggling, or I acted out with porn last week, or one of the things you spouses consistently say, even more than we don't act out, is I want honesty. I want to know what's going on. I want the truth. Second thing you want is intimacy, by the way, emotional intimacy. But to me, it is a great success if I come to you and say, a day or two after, once I've calmed down and talked to someone else who, like a sponsor, and gone to a meeting, and I'm not just blurting things out, but if I come to you and I say, I have a commitment to you to honesty, and I want you to know that I've struggled with this and I fell on my face, but I got back up, and here are the things I'm doing. That might not be how you, as a spouse, might define success, and I understand that. But to me, the honesty, the integrity, the stepping forward and willing to sort of take my consequences, to me, that is as important, if not more important, than I looked at porn today. What I want is the character I judge success by the character of the person and their willingness to commit to not hurting anyone else and being straightforward. And even in the face of consequences, being willing to tell the truth. So that's how I gauge, is it a one-time slip and they don't tell anyone and they keep going forever? Or is it happened and I'm cleaning it up and I'm letting people know? To me, that's more of it. To me, that is success. But I don't know how Tammy would, and I certainly don't think it's low. I just don't. I can't tell you what the numbers are, but I can tell you that I don't think it's a small amount of people who recover who are committed to it. But I will say it's a lifelong struggle, no matter how committed to it you are. So
but
Tammy, I
but
turn to
that's
you.
exactly right. It's the commitment. People ask me all the time, what is your success rate? And I say, for those that follow the aftercare plan and do what they come to our residential program. For those that follow their aftercare plan that is designed for them and they have the support to follow that, they have the tools and have the ability to go, hey, I'm struggling, if they are, rather than lean right back into the acting out. So then I say, it's probably close to 100%. But we have, guys that come to treatment who absolutely leave. They've not learned anything. They're not willing to take in anything. They've pushed back, and they're relapsing, probably by the time they hit the airport. And I don't know that, but it's one of those
Well,
things where it is really individually based, and it is what your commitment is. You did mention mental health, and absolutely, and that is a factor. But again, people that have the support, to undergird that, can also be successful. And I use it, I look at it, I'm on a recovery journey, so I never arrive. There is no success. I'm successful today with it, I guess, but like I don't use that word. I really go, I'm on a recovery journey. I'm in active recovery rather than an active addiction. And those are kind of my two choices. Like, there's no straddling the fence. You're one or the other. It's you can't be both. But like Dr. Rob said, if you are looking for, the ethical, never ever do that again.
Never again, right?
Yeah. Like I've been doing this a long time, and I still will not tell my spouse, I promise I'll never do this again. I'm going to do what I need to do today, but like that would be a false promise. So I just don't.
I'm glad you said that, Tammy, because when people go seeking integrity, when they go through treatment with us, and even when I was an outpatient therapist, when someone was leaving my care and they would say, I got this. I'm not going to do this anymore. I know what I need to do. I'm on top of the problem. I worry. I worry about those people because there is no perfection. I've got this. It is a one day at a time. That's why we use those terms. The person who leaves treatment and says, I'm worried this is going to be hard, and I hope I do the things right, and I really don't want to be back where I was. And I feel better about that person because they understand the lifelong challenge that it is. And I guess I want to use this example. First of all, let me just say, I don't think spouses are looking for this answer. I think spouses are looking for, I stopped and I never did it again. That would be success.
Yeah.
I can understand without question how that would be your goal. Um, I more look at like, and I know this isn't how you guys might look at it. It's like diabetes. If I tell you I am never ever going to have I don't know, you have outbreaks, symptoms. I don't know what, here's
You
a
have
different example.
very negative
Cancer.
medical condition. Cancer is a good one too.
I'm
Yeah.
never going to get cancer again. I promise you. Well, I
Hmm.
can tell you that I'm cured, that I'm in remission, and that there is no likelihood going forward if I take my medication, do things I need to do, that I'm going to have a relapse, but I might.
Hmm.
And that's the most promise we can give you is today. I will tell you one more thing. What would make me feel good as a spouse is, again, the honesty, the changes in behavior, the commitment to change. If I'm having to say to someone, did you go to your meeting tonight? Or thank you for going, you're such a star. If I have to be the motivator. In fact, I wrote that down. I'm sorry, my brain. Part of what I would call success has to do with why they are doing it. If my motivation is that you don't get angry with me, or you don't leave me, or I get to keep my job, that's short-term crisis motivation. But the motivation at some point has to become, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to lie. I don't want, to me, again, that is much more about success that someone has taken on. I just said this to one of our patients in treatment today. I said, I want you to be able to look at the mirror in the mirror and feel like you are the person that you want to be, and that you can feel good about yourself, and that you know that at least for today you can have respect for yourself. And to me, that's tremendous success. So, but I know Tammy spouses don't want to hear this. They want to hear, I will, as of September 13th, 2020, I've never done this again. And by the way, to me, uh, we lie. And so, and we know what you want to hear, and we know what we're not supposed to say, and we know it even better if we've learned treatment, and we've learned how to lie better if you're not paying attention and doing treatment right. So again, for me, it comes back to honesty and integrity. And I just had a guy who said, I'm not sure whether I'm into this or I'm into that. And once I figured out what kind of person I'm turned on by, then I won't act out anymore. And I said, it isn't about that. It isn't about who you have sex with or where you have it. It's about what kind of person are you, and what commitment have you made to change. It's about who you are, not about what you do. And again, I know spouses don't want to hear this, but this is the honest truth. And anyway, my expectations have changed from how I used to be looking at it to how I do after so much experience.
I
So,
do want to add, because it was like, why is reconciliation even suggested? That's absolutely your call. Like, you get to pick whether, I mean, this is a chronic condition, and people who have been in relationships for a longer time. Dr. Rob has talked about this before, and like people who have been at this for 30 years, they have a whole history together. There's a lot of, connected. We have kids, grandkids, we have a life, and it wasn't all a lie. And if the addict is really doing what they need to do, things change. That you can have a better, more honest, deeper, truer, not compartmentalized, life together if you choose it. But for people who are, early, we have people that are like not married, or they are early in the process together, and many of them go, yeah, I don't need this, I'm still young and I can, go find someone else, because this doesn't magically get better. This is a chronic condition, just like Dr. Rob said with diabetes. I use that analogy a lot. If I'm not eating sugar, if I'm exercising, if I'm taking care of myself, I will have few consequences of my diabetes. But if I'm eating a chocolate cake every night and, laying on the couch, guess what? I'm, probably going to end up in the, hospital. So
It's a good comparison, Tammy,
it
because
is, because it's a
how you
chronic
live your
condition.
life is going to determine if you relapse or you don't. People have
Hmm.
depression if they're working 50, 70 hours a week and they're not connecting and they're not taking care of their bodies. They're going to get depressed. They're not working through grief. They're going to get depressed. And there is, for most of us, a direct line between our commitment to change and what we're doing about it and whether we slip or not. So,
Yeah, but it
um,
absolutely is your choice. So, okay, the next one is, I know every individual is different, but wondering what a typical protocol would look like, such as how often to see a CSAT, a 10, 12 step, how frequently groups of disclosure, etc.
why don't you start this one, Tammy?
So I talked to lots of people. I probably have said to 3 different people today, 90 meetings in 90 days. If you're just starting out, why would you not want to get a foundation? So, we have a list of there's not just one 12-step program, there's a bunch, so finding the right fit, like SPAA, SCA, I am on the board of directors for that, but SA, SLAA, there's a bunch of different programs. So you can find the right fit, get a sponsor, work the steps. I always say this too. It's not just going to meetings. They're lovely. I love them. Don't get me wrong, but it really is about working the steps. Working with a qualified CSAT. A CSAT can provide, a good assessment of what's really going on. It's like we keep using medical analogies, but you want a diagnosis, you want to understand what's going on, and having that framework is really helpful. A generalist therapist are lovely, and if you've got grief, that might be a great fit,
For
but this
spouses.
is very specialized work.
Hmm.
Getting help for this specific, even for spouses, I'm going to, one thing about that I find is they're like, get rid of the bum, they don't have, or they're using codependent language. So be careful even with that. But yeah, somebody who can do betrayal trauma. But let's stick to this. It's like, I had somebody last week, I think it was, and they were like, well, I don't think I can do, like an hour a day. And I was like, trust me, when I was in my active addiction, I planned, I focused on, I prioritize my acting out. So if I can't spend an hour a day working on my recovery, I'm, I think you're lying to yourself if you can't figure that out. So it's, if the more we're committed to doing this, but everybody, so like Dr. Rob, he talked about working with the clients today at the treatment program. Everybody's aftercare plan is different based on what they need to be successful. We're looking holistically. Some have co-occurring chemical addiction, some have some eating issues, some have depression. So it really, what holistically is going to be the right level of support. But on another note, Scott Brassert will start another Sex Addiction 101 work group online in January. And that's kind of the primer for, you'll have a 3-circle plan. You'll have some good foundational components. So, but don't, all of these resources are on our website. You can find lots of, information, and you can always email to. Separately, Dr. Rob does a one-time 2-hour expert consultation, typically for couples, and that is really helpful when you're kind of stuck or don't know what to do. That can be helpful. But there's separately 25 or 50-minute support sessions, not with Dr. Rob, but with staff, that can be useful too. So
Like
there's a
you.
plethora of resources on our website, and if you email, you'll get an email from me going, here's the podcast, here's the webinar. So you'll get lots of stuff. So
Um, One of the things I would say is, as is frequently the case, you probably need to do more at the beginning. So
mhm.
like Tammy said, 90 meetings in 90 days. I don't know that someone who's doing really well and has some time and they're, a year later, they're sober for 6 months. I don't know that they necessarily need to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. But
Right.
I think the best answer for me is I think you need to do something every day.
Yes.
And it could go from a meditation to praying to calling to going to seeing. I think that again is commitment because it is one day at a time. So every day I get up and I pray, every day I go and meditation, every day I call my sponsor. There's at least one thing I need to do every day. I will say that this is a disorder of isolation. We lie, we keep secrets. In some ways, we're all alone, even when we're around other people. So a lot of it, a lot of maintaining it has to do with connection. Connecting with a person who's there to support me, connecting with a therapist, connecting with a support group. Each day, I should be doing something for my healing. And as I said in the beginning, someone might be going to a professional in the first month or so. They might go twice a week. One of the things that I've always said to clients, I think this is part of my skill set, is that when someone would come in and they'd say, I'm struggling and I've had a slip and I don't know what to do, and they expect me to go, oh my God, I can't believe you had a slip. What's wrong? Why aren't you? And my response is, well, you just probably need to work hard. You need more help. Maybe one meeting a week isn't enough. Maybe you need to go to three. Maybe one therapist session a week for this period of time isn't enough. So again, when you are in sort of relapse mode, you need to escalate what you're doing for yourself. It doesn't mean you don't need to do something every day, but maybe you need to have a more intensive, like Tammy said, 90 meetings in 90 days. You got to step it up when you're struggling, and especially at the beginning. But as Tammy, she still goes to meetings. I still go to meetings. 30 years later, I'm still in therapy. Probably, I've built swimming pools for therapists, as I've said before. I take medication. I guess my final thing is I'm committed to doing whatever it takes. I don't want to live the way I did before. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt myself. And I can see it coming. Trust me, I can see it coming. I know the situations that occur, like travel, for example. I can anticipate situations when I'm going to get into trouble that might mean I have to step up what I'm doing because I'm going to walk into a problem. The holidays are difficult for some people. So it's not just all the time, it's really situational. More in the beginning, but I don't think there's, like the statistics, there is no +3 -4 is going to equal this. It's much more, I don't know what the word is. It's individual and it's situational, I guess is what I would say.
And I'm so glad you said that. Two things. First of all, you said do something every day. I get lots of people that go, I'm listening to a podcast every day. Fantastic. And there's no accountability with that. There's no connection. So, what Dr. Rob said is absolutely critical. So connecting and having accountability with others, peer support, sponsor, therapist, that is what we need, because we lie to ourselves. And I too, like, when the busier my life gets, the more hectic, the more whatever chaos, guess what? I'm going to more meetings. It's not like, oh, I'm too busy to go. I absolutely prioritize going to those meetings because, it gets me back on the calm
I
and
know what it's
serene.
like when Tammy hasn't been to a
Yes,
meeting for
yes.
a
When
while.
I say I'm going to a meeting, they all go, "Okay, we'll talk to you later." Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
says
It's all,
anything. You go
yeah,
take
yeah.
care of
No,
yourself.
and I mean, I
Um,
go regularly, but if it's like I am going to a meeting, then it's like, yes, that is my highest priority, and I'm going.
And that brings up another point for me, which is I absolutely think we need to be accountable to what we're doing for our spouses. So I say to the guys who are in treatment with us, I say to any of the addicts who are here, put a piece of paper on your refrigerator for your spouse and for you. Monday, I'm going here. Tuesday, I'm calling this person. Wednesday, I'm going to. So you guys should not have to say, well, have you done it yet? Or when are you going? You should know if we say we're doing this, we're doing this and we're doing it at that time. And if we're not, we've come to you and said, hey, I'm going to go to this tomorrow because today I got that doctor's appointment. But, we are paying attention and we've laid it out for you. It's not, you shouldn't have to say, did you do something today? And we shouldn't come to you and say, well, actually, no, it should be there and we should come forward if there's a challenge. It's very concrete.
Mm-hmm,
What are you doing and when are you doing it? Tammy mentioned accountability. And I think not just being accountable to you, but be accountable to myself that these are the things
mm-hmm,
I'm committed to and I'm doing.
mm-hmm.
Um, I do want to run down quickly some of what we do because, a little
Please.
promotional, we do teach courses and they're not therapy, but they have workbooks, there's books, we walk people through things, we set up their priorities and how they do them, and they go in different levels. I don't know any other program that is doing groups, educational groups for people who've been in recovery for a while, for people dealing with porn, for people dealing with sex addiction. And this is not a replacement for therapy, but having been a therapist so long in and out of facilities, I know that, for example, at Seeking Integrity, when you're there for residential treatment, we teach a lecture every day and you have homework every day. And the guys, they're like, what's my homework today? But that doesn't necessarily happen unless you are connected to some kind of process. You can read all the books in the world, but if you have homework, if you're asked, what is your opinion, if you're engaging. So one of the things that comes up for me in accountability is taking a class, and taking a course is not the only thing, but it's really, really helpful. And there's one for spouses too. Um, we have residential treatment. Means you come out here and you let me kick your butt for a little while, and work with your spouse and your family to create some rhythm and some pattern and some goals for recovery. Um, we give away a lot of free stuff. There's all kinds of free groups, and I think we give away more stuff free than we actually do and get paid for it. Um, and there's all my books, feel free. And Tammy mentioned the podcast again. It's called Sex, Love, and Addiction. Would you mind throwing that in there, Tammy, for people
I will
to?
be happy to.
So we have over a million downloads. And it's interesting. I'll just say this while Tammy's working. I thought, we should do a podcast. And I listened to podcasts this was about 5 years ago, and I heard things about movies and I heard things about fashion. And I thought there must be something here that people want that has more meaning than that. And so I don't know whether it'll happen or not, but I went in there and just said, let's start. And, here we are a couple of years later with over 1 million people. And it is helpful. It is helpful. I'm not diminishing what you said at all. It's not, I agree with you. It has to be something active, not something passive. But let me tell you, the addict who listens to that podcast on their way to work is hearing me talk about it. The
Mhm.
spouse who's absolutely freaked out and doesn't know where to go or what to do, they're hearing information, and then they can say to the addict, you listen to this. So, and I'll say it this way too, and Tammy, I haven't said this in a while. We are a business. We need money to pay ourselves and we need money to pay the rent. But my view on it is if 9 people out of 10 get something for free, then one person who comes to treatment pays for everybody else. And that's the world that I want to live in. So anyway, you want to add anything to that, Tammy?
Well, no,
Things we're
like I don't
offering or
want you to
doing?
go, oh, treatment is overpriced. No, we're still an amazing value for a life-changing experience, So, but yes, I have lots of people that go, I listen to a podcast. Anytime I'm thinking of relapsing, I listen to a podcast. Fantastic. Getting, that in every day, great. As part of an overall plan. Again, that is watching our webinars, that happens at you, and the podcasts happen at you, but connecting. But I put the work groups on the online work groups because then so your peer says something and you go, wow, I hadn't thought about that, me too, or somebody asks a question, so like that interaction, it's way different than just reading the book. So we have Out of the Doghouse, Dr. Rob's most popular book. But again, just reading a book, guess what? My addict brain is going to go, like it's going to minimize, it's going to it's going to skip pages, but if I'm in a group and we're working through things and there's homework and we're talking about it, guess what? It's a much richer experience. Many therapists suggest that their clients participate in those because the ability to do deeper work with them in therapy, as a result, because they've had more understandings and gleanings that they can bring to their therapist. So all of this stuff layers, it just is, and if something's not working as good for you, find something else that is. It's all, it's an individual journey, but there's lifelines all over the place. Just grab on, and there are people to help, like us.
I want to add something, Tammy, about the word expertise. I see online, everyone in the world used to treat alcohol. Now they treat gambling, sex addiction, whatever can get someone in the door. And I think there's some wonderful treatment programs and there's some wonderful therapists and courses and all that. But what do they know? What have they written a book? Can you find their blog? And I will say this, many of the people who come and reach out to us in specifically like call or email or text or email, they will say, I heard your podcast. And then I went on YouTube and I saw some of your lectures. And then I talked to some folks. And I think it's really important. Don't just read the website, because I don't know if you know this, but websites aren't always true. But look at the person's experience. Are they a CSAT? Have they been doing this for a while? Do they work with other addictions? It really matters who you go see and what our experience is. People can put all kinds of flowery language onto what they do or don't do, but where's the proof? And you go to the podcast, you listen to YouTube or whatever that is, you will probably say, I don't mind saying this guy probably knows a few things. And I'm sitting here, by the way, to give it away, because that is my greatest reward. But anyway, make sure you're working with has experience, understands how to do this. Their program has some success. I hear, and Tammy will agree, so many people who call and they say, "Oh, I went to this, it looked really good, but I didn't get much out of it," or "we're still falling on our face," or so be careful. And by the way, we are not exclusive. If you write Tammy, Tami, at seekingintegrity.com, and you say, "Can you help me find an experienced therapist? Can you help me find a weekend workshop?" We, between us, pretty much know who the good folks are and what they do. So we're glad to make a referral. It doesn't mean
Not
to
weekend
us.
workshops. I like, other than our
Well, but
betrayed
some
partner
people,
one, like, yeah, but we like, I don't have like, that's a whole other conversation, but I can
no,
help
I'm
you.
just saying
Send
not
me an
everyone has the
email me and I
money.
will give you a resource. I know,
We will
but the
make sure
weekend
you go to a
workshop,
resource.
I would rather have you do our
Well, but what
online work
Tammy's
group
saying is
because
you
it's
can't take a
solid.
weekend workshop and say, "I did the work." I think
Magically,
that's what
yes,
she's
yeah,
saying.
yes.
Um,
I mean, even the week-long workshops, guess how many people come to treatment or have never gotten any sobriety? So this is different. This is, Dr. Rob said it's a mental health condition. I agree. I know for sure I have a mental health condition and I'm living in recovery, which is amazing and a miracle. And if I do what I need to do, I can continue on this path and continue to grow and learn. So, okay, ready for the
let's
next
keep
one?
going.
What are some effective strategies for emotional connection when dealing with recovery and relationship healing?
Can you talk about the Thanos? I don't know. Yeah, it's about emotional connection with, I would imagine, with a person. So let's talk
Yes.
about in terms of couples, because let me just say this. The answer for the non-couples is I build my relationships in 12-step programs and group therapy. I build my relationships in, addicts are born isolators. But I want to point out, and I often say to the addicts, before we even understood mental health, when someone was having a really hard time, we put them in another group, in a similar group of people who were struggling. And when someone's an addict, they're isolated, they're on their own, we almost intuitively put them in a 12-step program. So building a core bunch of people who have similar issues to you, whether or not you're in relationships, staying connected to those people. One of the things that was really important to me was something called fellowship, which meant after a 12-step meeting, we'd all go out for coffee or on a regular basis. I made friends out of some of these people. Some of them are lifelong friends. So you don't have to be in an intimate relationship in order to grow intimacy. And I'll just go back and tell you something funny, which I think they say in AA, which is buy a plant. If you can keep the plant alive, get a cat or a dog. If you can be committed to that, then look for a relationship. So it isn't just about emotional connection, it's also about commitment and consistency. Can you keep that plant alive? Well, you got to water it, you got to put it in the sun, you got to read the directions, all that stuff. Anyway, Tammy, you want to mention Thanos for a couple?
I did. I put it in the check or in the chat. It's the Thanos check-in, but I was thinking the exact same thing Dr. Rob was. You learn to practice those things with people who you are not in an intimate relationship with, and I mean connection, not sex. But it's because I can practice with my 12-step peers, and it can be a little scary or intimidating, but guess what? I don't live with them. So it's one of those things where there isn't as much writing on it. I can practice those things. I can practice empathy and
Practice.
all of those things. And that's what it takes. It's all about practicing, but there is no magic fix of like, do these things. I will also say, because it feels a little bit, and I could be completely making this up. It's like, I'm newly in recovery and I want to fix my relationship. And if that's the case, it's like we fix ourselves. And it's not we fix ourselves. We do the work so that we start to change. And then, things start to get different. So there's no fast track, to change, but we can learn. So hopefully that helps.
I wanted to build on something Tammy said, because the word intimacy. So many people misconstrue it. They think it's about sex. There is sexual intimacy, but to me, intimacy is about being known. Intimacy is about, I don't have any secrets from you. You know what's going on inside of me. I am vulnerable. 90% of the spouses who write us say, I have a non-intimate relationship, and they're not necessarily talking about sex. They don't feel responded to. They don't feel like a priority. Difficult questions or issues are just like, I don't want to talk about it. One of the things that spouses crave is vulnerability. And unfortunately, the men that I work with, they say, well, I think I have this figured it out. You do A, B, C, and D. And I'm like, no, you have to make yourself vulnerably open and risk that what you have to say and what you're dealing with. You know what is an effective strategy for emotional connection? If I go back to acting out and I come and tell you, to me, that is making myself as vulnerable as I can be, because you can leave, we can be right back where we are, all that. But I am willing to risk telling you the truth, which is being incredibly vulnerable. Doesn't mean you're going to be happy, but hopefully you will notice, wow, this person's telling me the truth. They are being emotionally intimate. Addicts are cut off. We don't want anyone to hurt us. We don't want anyone to know us. We want to keep the wall up and look good. You spouses will know if we're working to get close to you, because we will open our mouths and we'll talk about what's really going on inside of us. And to me, maybe that's not a strategy, but that should be the outcome for recovery of relationship, is emotional intimacy. And sexual intimacy comes out of emotional intimacy. When I am interested in the beginning, I love that, looking at this part and that part and all the sex we have in the world. But when it gets to be a real relationship, I looked at my husband last night. He was lying in bed and I was watching TV, and I said, let me just cuddle with you for a minute. And we were talking, and I was just stroking with one finger the inside of his arm. That was it. And he looked at me, and I knew he was thinking, you love me.
Mm.
It was just looking in his eyes, talking for a few minutes, this little touch. And he thought, oh, I feel loved. So, it doesn't have to be a big deal, but it has to come from the heart. And you guys know when it doesn't, for sure, because we're full of crap and we can pretend that we're being intimate, but you know it when you feel it. Trust your gut. Okay.
Okay, next one. Betrayed spouse here. My spouse acted out with a person. They said the high was in the chase and not really the person, and that person did not mean anything because it could have been anyone. That person was just available. Is this possible, or can this be an excuse to cover up a relationship? They are taking all the steps and are trying, but it's hard for me to understand what happened. Yes.
So what addiction is really about, in a great part, it's a neurochemical response. It's like having a couple of drinks. Tammy's had a miserable day, she's unhappy, she might have 4 drinks, she feels better. For me, it would be thinking about, who could I be with and where could I go? And maybe there's a sex worker, and I start looking online and I start getting adrenaline going. I get emotionally excited. What addicts call it is a having the blinders on, because when you are in that state of intense arousal, and I don't mean sexual arousal, I mean excitement and adrenaline and fear, and literally the world closes down. I can remember thinking to myself, I probably shouldn't be doing this, or, someone's going to find out, whatever it was. But the pull emotionally was so powerful. And by the way, this is why addiction is like a rock rolling downhill. Because in the beginning, we are not pumping out all of those hormones, and we're not all distracted and excited. And so, but they're right. Almost every person I work with will say it's about the hunt, it's about the chase. One of the ways, and Pat Carnes's talk about this all the time, is if you look at the amount of time that it takes to fantasize about it, to get ready for it, to think about it, to plan it, and then you look at the amount of time the sex took, you realize that in most cases, 75% of it was getting ready, 80% of it was thinking about it, and 5%, 15 was about the sex. And even in that way, you can see that there's a whole um, period of getting more and more excited about doing it. And by the way, the closer you get, the harder it is to stop. And this is what we teach in treatment. This is what's called relapse prevention. What are you going to do when you first think about it? What are you going to do when you find yourself making phone calls or online? That is relapse prevention, is learning every step along the way that is driving you toward the behavior, and doing something different at the very earliest moment. So I completely agree. I'm not interested in what sex worker it is. I want someone I'm excited by and I'm interested. I'm not going to probably have sex with someone I'm not, that is completely not my thing. Like no, that's not really true.
I
I've
was going
seen
to say,
people have
I
sex with
don't
people
think
that
that's
they
true.
go to some sex club and they don't even like the person looks, but in fact, this answers your question. They are so pumped up. They are so excited that on some point level, it doesn't matter who they're with. You have, so it is not about relationship. Now, there are people who are having affairs and their emotional excitement, like we talked about, is I'm going to call them and no one's going to know. And then we're going to plan this. And I can't wait to see them. And it is the same kind of incredible excitement and distraction. And it can be applied to an affair or it can be applied to, regular forms of acting out that are not connected to one person. But the chemical process, the psychological process, what goes on in the brain is the same for all addicts. We think a lot about it, we fantasize a lot about it before we actually go do it. And during that fantasy in the beginning to head toward it, our brain shuts down and we are completely in an emotional state. Your spouse to say, how could you love me and do this at the same time? I'm not thinking about you at all. I'm doing everything to push you out of my head so that I can give myself permission to go do what I do. Now, later on, I'm going to think, what about you? But in the moment, I'm thinking about, I want to get to that thing that is so exciting to me and I can't wait to do it. Yeah. Tammy, did you have anything you wanted to add? I
I
ran
do
out of words.
a couple things. It's like it did not mean anything, and it doesn't on any kind of attachment level, but it did. People talk about, like, I don't even remember driving to the destination because they were
Right.
so in that bubble. So there is a complete disconnect, and it is different. Like, it is different, and you of course cannot, you cannot understand this. I say this to partners all the time. Your brain does not think this way. So you cannot even imagine, acting out and getting in this space. But, if addiction is a maladaptive coping mechanism, it's using people or substances or gaming or gambling or, whatever, food, to numb out, escape, whatever. But that whole thing that Dr. Rock talked about, the 75 or 95%, of the experience is really, it's like I'm completely focused. I can forget the rest of the world, all of my problems at work, anything that is negative. There's nothing I have to deal with in that moment. So,
I want to give an example.
mhm.
So um, I used to teach troubled kids back at the beginning of my career. And like any classroom, I live in California, we have earthquakes. So we used to have earthquake drills. And by the way, if you're in an earthquake, you're supposed to get under your desk or get under some doorways, not so much. You're actually supposed to get under something solid so that if things fall or you were not going to be hit with them, all of that stuff. So I used to teach the kids and we had to do earthquake drills. Why did we drill them over and over and over again when there was no earthquake? Because in the moment of that kind of anxiety and oh my God, what's happening? And it may not be emotional excitement, but with all that adrenaline, people start running around. They want to run out of the room as if there wasn't an earthquake in the hallway. They start banging into each other. They do all of that. And if you train someone like relapse prevention over and over and over again, then when this happens, that's what you do. Then when that emotional arousal comes up and you just don't know what to do, you want to go to the first thing that comes into your mind. But because you have gone to meetings, you have been in therapy, you've worked on this, you already know what to do when that state of mind comes up. If you don't do all the things that we're talking about, by the way, this is why you have to do it regularly. I don't do one earthquake drill with kids and say, okay, now they know. We do it, regularly because in that moment, I want them to think, I want them to do, they're not going to be able to think. They're so aroused, they're so excited, they're so scared, but I want them to know, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. And if you think about it, that is the emotional piece is I'm in such a panic. I'm so that I'm not even thinking about I'm going to do bad things that I shouldn't be doing. By the way, most people in an earthquake are hurt by running over broken glass, by
Oh,
things
wow.
falling on them, because it's not like the wall falls over, it's that the lamp falls on their head. You need to be under a desk. But in the moment, you just want to run. I love that, by the way. I run down the hall as if there wasn't an earthquake in the hallway. Um, anyway, go ahead, Tam.
Okay, next one. Porn addict here. Have been in recovery for about 8 to 9 months, sober from any bottom line behaviors for almost 6. Urges and triggers have definitely lessened, but I feel that a roadblock is still positive ideation. I know that being in active addiction is an awful place to be, and I hate the person I am when I'm there. But there are some times when I feel like I look back and miss the feeling. It's probably my brain and body remembering the dopamine rush, but I want to get rid of the times where I feel I miss it. Any tips on changing that? That's a great question.
Well, anybody who has really committed to a weight loss, for example, do you think that chocolate cake still doesn't look good? Do you think I don't think about when I walk through the grocery line and I see, one of those big tubes with all the chocolate chip cookies? I loved eating those without baking them. I know it says don't, but oh my God, raw chocolate chip cookie go. But anyway, the point is cravings don't go away. Sometimes they escalate. They come and they go. I remember for years and years after I stopped smoking cigarettes, if I had a cup of coffee in the morning, boy,
Mm,
did I want that cigarette because things were so paired and so intertwined that one absolutely brought up the other. And I didn't say, what's wrong with me that I still want that cigarette? I said, well, of course I still want that cigarette. I smoked for years and had cups of coffee. And so, and do I miss the feeling? Boy, do I miss that chocolate cake. And once in a while, I'm not supposed to admit this, I see somebody having a cigarette and I think, oh, that looks, I mean, I don't really, I know, and I don't want to smell like, but a part of, they look like they're relaxing, they're having fun. They're like, oh, that looks pretty good. It doesn't go away. It's about how we learn to live and make other decisions. Every night, trust me, I want dessert, but once a week I have it. So it is a choice of living differently. And that's why we say one day at a time, every single day, because the cravings will be there. We have a saying, when I am working really hard on my recovery and I'm in a really good place, the addiction part of me is in the corner doing push-ups, meaning it doesn't go away. And I have to have a regular practice and commitment to change so that when those feelings do come up, like when the earthquake happens, I know what to do. But I can't, I can't predict how I'm going to feel. I can't predict what thought is going to come into my head, but I can know what to do when it happens.
mhm.
But I wouldn't judge my recovery about what I'm thinking about. A lot of spouses, and I think this is not helpful for you guys. I want to know every time you have a lustful thought, and I want to know every time you look at someone on the street. And well, people have thoughts all the time. People find people attractive, but it's what do I do with it and how am I living? Not do I have the feeling and have it pass through me. So, anything else, Sir Tammy? That was a good answer. But do you have any?
No, it really was. But, and I was like, with all due respect, it's fantastic that you've gotten to this point and, in racking up some days at a time. And this is very early because I bet the addiction and the numbing out and dissociating and compartmentalizing has been happening for years or decades. So it takes time, but you are already experiencing their lessening. So great. And focus on I'm making progress and I'm going to continue to do what I need to do. And then the gaps will be even bigger, but there will still be triggers, there will still be thoughts, and they can be fleeting thoughts, like I still get them really rarely. And I just laugh. Like I laugh and tell somebody, and that's it, because I go, that's just funny that I think, my brain still thinks those ways.
Right.
But I don't,
And it
I
always
don't,
will.
yeah, but I don't take it as like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? It's like, I'm an addict. I know I'm an addict. That's just it. So,
I
okay,
wanted to say one more thing about that.
sure.
It's not the it's not the rush and the memory. It's something's going on inside of me.
Yeah.
And my
Yes.
automatic response is, I'm stressed, I'm upset, something has happened. For me, it's abandonment. And someone doesn't show up for something or a family event doesn't happen. And I feel bad, but that feeling of bad for me leads to the fantasy and the obsession. I want to get out of what I'm feeling. And in my head, this is a way I can disappear and get out of what I'm feeling. So I find that when I long for the dopamine rush, it probably means that something difficult or upsetting has happened, and it's more about wanting to escape into that. But bad stuff's going to happen, and life is difficult. I may have those thoughts, but recovery is about what you do, not what you think.
So the next question, I struggle to wait, I got to put my glasses on to deal with the lack of empathy my partner can demonstrate. He is doing the work, although I think slow going. Has a CSAT sponsor, goes to SAA meetings, and has just started 12 steps. How do I have patience or try to understand how he just finds it hard to do empathy? empathy is like,
Yeah.
I say this all the time, you know, you want your spouse to stop the problematic behavior and be like your, with all due respect, best girlfriend who gets it, and addicts are at the kindergarten level, and having the empathy and learning things, that's a dissertation level, and we can learn, but it takes time. You said he just started the 12 steps. Steps 4 through 9 are housekeeping. That's where we start. So if he's been, I love my 12 step, but if I'm just sitting there warming a seat, I'm just sitting there warming a seat. So that's good, because I'm probably not going to act out in that moment, but it really is doing the work. So I'm glad he has a CSAT. I think the biggest thing for you is, how do I have patience? Like,
Hmm.
hopefully you can see that he's doing some work. Hopefully you have a whole tribe of people who are supporting you. They're
Hmm.
your empathy, and you can see, what he's doing, and that he's starting to, get some progress towards recovery. Okay, he's working on step 4, and he's got a commitment to do a step 5. Great, that would be positive. And you'll start to see, the more he practices, Dr. Rob, said it a little while ago too, when they're practicing with other people in groups, that is the safe place to do it. And then going, oh, that worked there, I'm going to translate that and work that, in my relationship. And then if it works, great. Oh, wow, I've learned something new. But just like Dr. Rob talked about the drills, like, we have to learn, we have to practice. This is not an innate skill. We are so shut down emotionally, that we don't have the ability to do so. So I hear you and wanting it faster. I implore you, get support for you. We've got a Betrayed Partner work group that starts in January. We also have retreats for partners, that empowered women retreats. We've got January is in Kentucky, it's almost full, and then in March we're going to be in Texas, and those will be weekend in-person retreats. You will get empathy, you will get support, you will get connection. So check those out on our website. Email me if you've got questions. But Dr. Rob, thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing to this, which is we often say in addiction and in treatment that empathy is a later stage part of the
Mm-hmm.
process. Um, Obviously, if I can do the things that I do that I know are going to hurt you in some way, I was just saying to this guys today, um, in order to hurt you and do things that hurt you, I have to avoid empathy. I have to avoid, what is empathy? It's the idea, it's thinking ahead to how it might make you feel. It is the thought experience of, or the felt experience of, what are you going through? And as an addict, I don't want to think about you at all. I don't want to have empathy. I avoid empathy because then it might make it harder to do what I want to do if I actually thought about how it's going to make you feel. So I actually push you out of my mind in order to be able to do what I want to do. That's when you guys say, how could you love me and do this at the same time? It's because I am working really hard to keep my feelings about you away. I often say, I don't think you can actively love someone and hurt them at the same time. I really, unless you're crazy, crazy, which means that I have to distance myself from my love for you. I have to say you're fat. I have to say you're ugly. I have to say you're mean. I have to do all kinds of things in my head, gymnastics, to push you away in my feelings for you. So I'd say opposite of empathy. So to now turn around and think about what you're feeling and anticipate, it takes some time. I will say this, and I'll give myself credit for this. Tammy didn't say the rest of the name of Out of the Doghouse, but they're out of because it's hard to
Yeah.
say. It's Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And the reason that I wrote it is because empathy is something that many of us don't have a clue about, and not just addicts, but men don't
Mhm.
particularly have empathy. And we certainly don't understand what a woman is going through when we've harmed her. Candy, flowers, I'm so sorry, I
Mhm.
didn't mean it. Let's go on vacation. It's been 2 months. When are you going to get over it? That's how most men respond, in my experience. And not just to men, but to women, not just to women, but to men too. What I'm interested in them is teaching them empathy is not, will you leave me alone? You're going after me forever. Empathy is, I can only imagine how hard this must be for you. That's what empathy looks like. And we are not used to thinking that way at all. It takes practice. So we teach a course in empathy. That's what Out of the Doghouse is, because it just doesn't come innately to us. It takes practice. I can tell you all of the psychological background for why we lack empathy, but I don't think That's probably, I'm sure there's a podcast I have on that somewhere. I'll write a
Yes.
note to put one. Okay,
Okay, we
what
got
you
two
got?
more questions. We can do this. Can you help me to understand the paradox of desperately wanting to be loved, but being profoundly avoidant towards any kind of intimacy? My husband can barely stand to be touched, yet denies this when I try to discuss it. His fantasies are pretty specific and revolve around what I consider attention seeking or exhibitionistic situations rather than physical affairs. You mentioned connection. How does someone incorporate connection when everything in them screams stay away?
Slowly is my answer. I am not just going to turn around and be embracing you and open with you. And there's a reason that we run away from our emotions. There's a reason why we lie. There's a reason why we keep you at a distance. It's interesting to me, not interesting, it's a sad thing that I love you. I made a statement and I say it to the guys all the time, which is many of us had to emotionally or physically run away from home in order to survive. I couldn't wait to get out of my house. And emotionally, it took me a long time to remove myself from the patterns that I grew up with. But when you're in love and you're in a meaningful relationship, you should be running toward your relationship, not away. Unfortunately, for many of us who grew up in difficult circumstances, getting close to people is scary. Getting close to people brings up all kinds of feelings that we don't want to have and we don't know what to do with. So I'm not talking about addiction recovery. I'm talking about intimacy and relational connection. It may in the beginning just, and I know this seems silly, I put down the computer and we just sit and talk. I can't tell you how many relationships. What do you do in the evening? Well, we watch TV. What do we do in the evening? Well, I'm on the computer and she's doing this. Intimacy and growing it for some people may simply be sitting and being with that person. For a lot of the men that I work with who date, they will run into a moment where they want to run away from the intimacy, but they don't tell the person. They act like everything's fine, but inside they just want to get the heck out of there. What do I do? And I can't connect with them. Just tell them. Tell them you're feeling frightened. Tell them you're struggling. Telling them you can't be close tonight. That is being vulnerable. That is being intimate. And when you open up to talking about that stuff, how scared I am to be close to you, or how much I want to run away into acting out when we do this or that, that is the beginning of it. My vulnerability, my being honest with you, my finding where I feel safe. Last night, I didn't make love to my partner. I didn't talk for an hour and a half. Um, the emotional connection was simply looking at each other. I just remember Tammy like doing this on the arm, just this one finger, and we looked at each other, and there was love. There was just love there, and it didn't have to be some huge thing. I think intimacy is little teeny pieces put together over time. I know we're out
Well,
of
but
time.
you talk.
Do you know
I
what,
know
Tim?
we
I have
got
to
one more.
tell
We've
you.
got one more,
Wait,
but
how does this go so fast? I feel like we
it
just
does.
start and then we're done. How does that
It
happen?
does. But I want to go because like going for a walk. You and your husband go for a walk together. That isn't intimate. You can have conversations. Like those are connection points. Those are things that you can do that are not like not even the intensity of being so physically connected. So there's lots of things to do, and for the person who's avoidant, it is being willing to just take a little step. So
Little teeny ones.
yeah. So one more
Um,
question, and then the last one we're not going to get to. Okay. Oh, wait. It says thank you. Okay. Never mind. Well, what if my essay's former acting out
right.
partner texts my partner from different phone numbers? How can an addict escape being triggered when the drug is unexpectedly placed in front of them?
They need a plan,
Well, yeah, I
you
was going to say,
know?
do you know, like one of my addictions? I have many, but one of them is alcohol. Guess what? It's everywhere, and if and yes, I can come across it at any moment. Going to the grocery store, you know what? It's up to me to have a plan. Just like Dr. Rob said, it's like this is going to happen. Clearly, even if you change the number, this person is persistent. So this is on him. Have a plan, if it's a stalker kind of situation, you can take out legal, situations. So, but other
And
thoughts?
and and I just want to back Tammy up. It's about things are going to come up. And maybe, do you need to block that affair partner? Yes. Do you need to block them on your text, your social media? Do you need to block them on your phone? Absolutely all of that. And maybe someone gets through for whatever reason. What am I going to do in that moment? You know, what I will do is say, if that I hear from that person, I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to do something about it. In fact, as my spouse, I can tell you, boy, I don't know, this person contact, keeping it to myself though and doing nothing, that is a pure setup for getting back in touch with them and doing something about it. But shit happens. And sometimes to addicts, things come back that we thought we'd gotten rid of or we're done with. It's what we do about it and what plan we
Hmm.
have that matters, not the fact that it happens. It's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tammy, thank you. I
Thank
always
you.
enjoy
Thanks
doing this.
everyone. It's we appreciate it. The schedule will be different on all of our meetings and things through the holidays. I'm getting a list and we're going to update the calendar, so watch that. But there will be things throughout the holidays, so
And a
don't
lot of the free
think
groups
we've
will
gone away
continue.
until next year. Yeah, yes, lots of stuff. So yeah.
Don't
Okay,
wait till
thanks
next year.
everyone.
It sounds so far away, but it's really
Don't wait.
close.
I know.
All right.
Almost
See
here.
you
All right, bye
guys.
everyone.